Hello everybody, good evening and welcome to the United Stand. I'm Mark Goldbridge and this is your latest Manchester United news as Erik ten Hag comes out and backs Marcus Rashford again and says that he will not be sold this summer. Is that a mistake to be doing that in March? Does it betray a weakness? Does it betray that a manager again is powerless to move this club forward because those in control are prioritising off-field activity over on-field activity? Or actually, is it the right thing to do to keep Marcus Rashford with Ten Hag over the next couple of years? We'll be talking about that. It's Friday night and it will be real. We're also going to talk about Luke Shaw and why he's not leaving this summer, as well as some weird story about Antony going to Barcelona and Ten Hag's staff wanting reassurances because some of them are out of contract in June and want to know whether they're going to get kept on. Plus, we'll be delving into your questions because it's a Friday night show, and a Friday night show is always a little bit different on the United Stand, especially when Goldbridge has been drinking a bit of red wine. Anyway, let's get into the show. So look, you know what? I spoke to you at the end of the morning show. Yeah, maybe I've dropped off a little bit in the last few months. Maybe I've not been as opinionated as I need to be. Well, that's about to change. I told you that. I'd also told you last Monday that Marcus Rashford's not for sale. And Ten Hag today in his press conference said that. He said that, why would you give somebody a 4-year contract last summer? Of course we want to keep him. Why would we do that? He's part of our future plans. So look, boring. I could just sit here and go, well, you know, he's not for sale. The manager said he's not for sale. The club don't want to sell him. And at the end of the day, let's play both sides and say, I can understand some fans want him to be sold, but really I can understand why the club want to see it, keep him and sit on the fence. Not no more, Billy. Not no more. No more of that shit. No more sitting on the fence. Because I'll tell you what, I actually am just going to come at this from a completely different angle. Like, whether I think we should keep Rashford or not, whether you think we should keep Rashford or not, whether Ten Hag should be saying that publicly or not, I think there's a few things that we need to just remove. It could be Varane, it could be Casemiro, it could be Luke Shaw, it could be whoever. It doesn't really matter if the name's Marcus Rashford. It doesn't really matter if Ten Hag is saying he wants to keep him. I think about Manchester United, and correct me if I'm wrong, we haven't won fuck all for a long time. We haven't won anything for a long time. We've not been relevant for a long time. So let me just get this straight. We are basically saying that certain players are not for sale, you know, 3/4 of the way through a shit season, and we're already saying they'll be here next year. What type of strategic review and new vision is this then? Because I'll tell you for free, we're not a bloody charity. We're meant to be a competitive football club. And I want to focus on that first of all, because hold on a minute. Why are certain players not for sale at the start of March in a shit season? Hello, this is competitive sport. Hello, we're a long way behind the best teams in this league. Nobody should be safe. So, look, I understand why. I'll tell you why Ten Hag, well, I don't know why he said it, but I can see why, and I'll tell you that in a moment. But the overarching thing for me is, all of you lot saying you want to sell Rashford, absolutely fine. Anybody who doesn't want to sell Rashford, absolutely fine. But what I'm talking about here is the core principles of Manchester United getting back to where they need to be. Why the hell are people making decisions on individual players in March when we don't have a director of football, we don't know what's happening with the manager, and we're having a shit season? I take you back to Sir Alex Ferguson, who may well be advising the club now saying, don't get rid of Rashford, he's been here since he was 8. But Sir Alex Ferguson's not the manager anymore. And if he was saying that, he completely contradicts what he's always been about. You look back at Sir Alex Ferguson and what we achieved at Manchester United year on year on year. Every year there was a title or a title race. So tell me this, when you can get rid of David Beckham, who is world class, but you're fed up of what he's doing off the field, when you can get rid of Jaap Stam, who is world class, but he's upset, you know, the Nevilles, when you can get rid of Ruud van Nistelrooy, who is world class, but he's upset Ronaldo. And when you can get rid of Roy Keane, who is, you know, the greatest captain we've ever had because he said something about a couple of young players who weren't good enough. What the hell are we doing now saying that players that aren't delivering on the pitch, we're not going to sell them? And this is where Man United have gone wrong. And look, I'm not saying, you know, the way we've become a bit of a charity. We've lost our way as a football club. I don't care what anybody says. This is me saying this. Some might agree, some might not. But We've lost our way as a football club. I think we've become soft. You know, maybe even Sir Alex Ferguson is sat there with Sir Jim Radcliffe and saying, you can't get rid of Rashford. I'm not going to do the Scottish thing. You can't get rid of Bruno. You can, you know, but actually 20 years ago he would have done. And this is the thing. Where we are at the moment ain't good enough. We need to go back to what we used to do. I mean, it's incredible to me. And I'm not saying we need to sell these players. What I'm saying is we need to grow a set. We need to grow a set and look at how we get back to the top. There are clear, definable patterns when Sir Alex was in charge on how we kept this squad on its toes, respectful and hard-working. And that's because whether you were Nemanja Vidic or Gary Neville or Ryan Giggs, you knew if you fuck about, no matter what you're doing on the pitch, you're gone. You're gone. And now at United, over the last 10 years, you can fuck about, be shit on the pitch, and we'll still keep you. And that's where we're going wrong. So forget Rashford, forget Bruno, forget Luke Shaw, forget Varane, forget Maguire. We need to get the principles right at the bloody top of the club. It doesn't, to me, I find it baffling that Man United are putting it out there that certain players are not for sale in the middle of a shit season who've not delivered, and yet 20 years ago, David Beckham was world class, but Sir Alex didn't like that he used to go out, you know, and do modelling. You know, Jaap Stam fell out with a player, get out. Van Nistelrooy fell out with a player, get out. Nothing to do with what they were doing on the pitch. Van Nistelrooy was one of the best strikers in the world. Jaap Stam was one of the best centre-backs in the world. David Beckham was one of the best right-wingers in the world. Get out. Nowadays, don't deliver on the pitch, piss about off the pitch, some of them. Oh, you can stay. And that's where it needs to change. And that is what worries me, because I don't know the truth behind this. But, you know, bottom line, there are a number of players that are not for sale this summer. Who's making these decisions at Manchester United, and why are they making these decisions? I want Ineos to come in and follow the path of 20 years ago, where no player is safe. Where if a player is playing well, but they're fucking about in the dressing room, get out. You've not got the right attitude. If a player is playing well, but they're not turning up for training, get out. You've not got the right attitude. What we're doing is, you're not playing well, but you're on big wages, you're a big name, you can stay next year. What message does that send out to the squad when they see, oh, he's not for sale and he's done fuck all this season? We need to change that. And if Ineos ain't changing that, they ain't changing anything. On Ten Hag, look, that's not to do with Marcus Rashford. That's to do with the general situation. You know, you could apply that to any player. It's not exclusive to Rashford. I'm not saying sell Rashford. I know some of you would. What I am saying is, hold on a minute. Why are we saying people aren't for sale in March? Why are we putting that message out there? What you're basically saying is, it doesn't matter how shit somebody pays. We've got him on a big contract on big wages, and basically he's more powerful than us. Is that what we're saying? Because that's what it could come across as. Nobody at Man United should be safe. If you don't play well, you could get sold. Simple as that. It's what made us great for years. David Beckham was gutted to get sold to Real Madrid. Jaap Stam was gutted. I think we sold him to Lazio. You know, Roy Keane wasn't happy that he got sold to Sunderland. Van Nistelrooy wasn't happy. And they were performing players that won things. It's very, you know, football's not that hard. It's not that hard, and there's very simple things that you can do. What I would say about Ten Hag is, it sort of worries me a little bit. But I want to take some of your comments. We didn't have so many average players under Sir Alex. Saying we're not selling it someone to allow us to focus on proving the squad is good business, says Ian. Don't do it, Mark. Stay as you have always been. Don't sell your soul to these savages. We will never stop supporting your channel. Stay true to your principles, says Nicholas. Ollie said in the overlap, Sir Alex and the board would disapprove when he tried dropping certain players, says Eduardo. Look, Sir Alex was brilliant, and he was brilliant because of the things we've got the evidence of. If Sir Alex is getting involved now saying don't sell Scott McTominay, then I'm sorry, he's wrong. But, you know, he is wrong because he shouldn't be getting involved, and he shouldn't be making decisions that are contradictory to what he used to do. I don't know whether Sir Alex is involved, but what I'm saying is, if he was involved, he's contradicting himself by saying keep players that aren't good enough. In principle, everyone, manager, players, should be replaceable. No one is bigger than the club, says Patrick. I think he's just saying it to keep locker rooms smooth for now, says Daniel. I'm going to talk about that. Could you please wish me a happy birthday? Love from Dublin, says God's Will. Happy birthday, mate. Hope you have a great day. Good evening, mods and the United Stand family, says Big Steve. And evening all, it's Friday night, says the United Stand, who is a member. I'm going to give some memberships out, actually, in a bit. Are we in for Juventus, Weston McKenny, says Bran. Check the show out this morning, and because I don't really want to talk about it tonight. It's not an interesting enough story. But look, you know what? In relation to what Ten Hag has said, there's two ways of looking at this. Ten Hag has said that Marcus Rashford's not for sale. One, he's not for sale. Two, we'll make a decision in the summer, but I'm not going to say he's for sale at the start of March because I need him to bloody score goals. So you could look at it like that. On the one hand, he's not for sale, and Ten Hag might look at it and go, look, I've seen what he can do. These sort of players don't grow on trees. These players that can score 30 goals in a season are in the Premier League are worth their weight in gold. Ten Hag might be like that. He might be going, I don't want to sell Rashford because I know what he can do. He can score 30 goals, and maybe this is a bad year, but next year he might go and do it. And then I've let him go. So maybe that's what he's thinking. What I will say is that Marcus Rashford is very, very lucky to have a manager that has stuck by him from day one. From interview to get the job, I'll make him a good player, to out on the piss in Belfast, not performing well all season, you know, body language not great. Every week he stuck by him. Even at the start of the season, he should have dropped him before he did. Ten Hag, you can criticise him all you like. Rashford, I don't know what Rashford thinks about Ten Hag. Some people have said he wasn't happy about how Sancho got treated. I don't know. That's just speculation. But Marcus Rashford can never, ever, ever, ever say that Ten Hag hasn't backed him. Because he has constantly backed him. After the Belfast thing, he missed the fucking FA Cup game against some shithouse. I can't remember what they were called now. And he was, you know, he was back playing the next game. He constantly backs him publicly. He's picked him. You know, Ten Hag has had Rashford's back, and there's no doubt about that. So I suspect that when Ten Hag says he's not for sale in the summer, Ten Hag really likes Rashford. I think he wants to get the best out of him. And as I said, maybe it's just because he thinks he's a good player. And selling a player that can score you 30 goals is a very difficult thing to do. So maybe it's all about that. Maybe that's what it is all about. There's a danger to that, which I'll tell you in a moment. But on the other hand, maybe they don't get on well. There's been rumours that they don't get on well. There's been rumours about that. So maybe Ten Hag is like, you know, in the summer, there might be a deal to do. He might want to leave. But if you're Ten Hag in a press conference before a Liverpool game, you're not going to say, and this is the great thing, isn't it? What do you think about Marcus Rashford going to PSG? I'd love it. I'd love it. I'd love him to fuck off. Inconsistent, greedy, never passes, overrated. Yeah, I can't wait for him to leave right before a Liverpool game. Yeah, never going to happen is what I'm going to say. So, look, there's two ways of looking at it. He is going to sell him in the summer, but he's, you know, keeping him confident, you know, because he needs him. Or he's never going to sell him in the summer. I would say he's not. Look, go back to what I said 2 weeks ago. He's not for sale. He isn't for sale. The danger with that, Connor Welsh, welcome to the members club. Get your badge in, legend. Helgi says, every manager in the world says they're absolutely not for sale. So important for us when asked in a presser about future of players. Exactly. But what I would say is that pretend he doesn't get sold. The danger with this is that we've seen it with so many managers who've backed the wrong horse. And Ten Hag doesn't have a lot of money in the bank. He doesn't. The media want him gone. Some of our fan base want him gone. At the moment, he retains the majority of the fan base. He's not in a strong position. You know, in the sense that if things went wrong next year, I think a lot of people would go. I think most United fans that back Ten Hag are doing it because they want to see him with a structure and, you know, a better season where there's not loads of injuries, where the sale doesn't occur. But if we go into next season and the same problems are there, I think that patience runs away. And what I mean is, you go into next season and certain players are inconsistent again, that will be held against the manager. And that's what Ten Hag's got to look at, because players sack managers. And if you say, I'm not selling this player, it's really important to me, and then that player doesn't deliver, then that's dangerous for Ten Hag. And also, let's not forget, we're still owned by the Glazers. Ineos have come in, they're doing this, they're doing that, but we are still owned by the Glazers, and I think people forget this. And the second thing is, if people above the manager are saying you're not selling that player, that's even worse, because that's a situation of player power. You know, if you're keeping players because of their wages and their contract and their value off the pitch, that's a terrible way to run a football club. I mean, let me just go back to the past. Nowadays, if we tried to sell David Beckham, not a chance. Not a chance. And this is a really important little clip here, section. Manchester United sold David Beckham, the most famous and lucrative footballer in the world, because Sir Alex Ferguson wanted to sell him. We didn't even get loads of money for him. It was a reasonable price, but he was the #1 brand footballer in the world, and we sold him because Sir Alex Ferguson said, I don't want him in my squad anymore. It's a distraction. We would never do that over the last 10 years. Never in a million years would we sell David Beckham. Now, I wouldn't sell David Beckham because I thought he was a bloody brilliant player, but we wouldn't sell him because of the brand of Beckham. No way. Even if he played shit for 2 years, we wouldn't sell him. And tell me how we're going to be successful again when we're still making those sort of decisions, where we're not selling players that managers want to sell because we want the off. I mean, look, Mourinho said it. There's 3 players at that club I tried to sell in the first 6 months. Doesn't seem as if there will be a clear out. These players will be here forever, says Parker. Look, I can honestly say that I don't see Man United, and I've said it before, I don't see Man United winning a Premier League title built around Rashford and Bruno. I don't. You've got to bring better players in than them. I can see us winning a Premier League title with Rashford and Bruno, but I can't see us winning a Premier League title where they're the 2 stars. Like, they need to drop down to 3 and 4 or 4 and 5. Are we going to do that? Or are we going to still persist with building a team around those players? Because I just don't see it. I'd love to get proven wrong. I'd love to get proven wrong. But even last season when Rashford scored 30 goals, I didn't see a player that was, you know, a talisman that gets hold of the ball and, you know, like an Mbappe or a Messi or a Vinicius Junior or a Saka. I saw a guy that scored a few goals, and that's brilliant. He's a goal scorer. But what about the creative element? What about the creative balance of the team as well? You know, we've got Rasmus. He's a brilliant player. He's going to get better and better. You've got Garnacho. Does the balance work? You know, there's a lot of things that need to be looked at. But in the short term, I get it. He's not for sale. We're not looking to sell him. He's part of the future. I get that. And that's coming out of the club, and we have to respect that. But what people also need to respect is that every fan has a right, in a non-toxic way, to discuss the way the club is being run and go, why are we saying that an underperforming player is not for sale in March? Why are we doing that? If we want to... We're miles off Liverpool, Man City and Arsenal. You know, could Rashford not be a problem? And what I mean by that, in the nicest possible way, none of this is toxic, is that when looking at... and I think people struggle with this. They really struggle with this. When looking at why we aren't near Man City, Liverpool and Arsenal, you're going to find issues. Your issues will be different from mine and the next person. But it's not wrong for some people to say, I think Rashford's an issue. It's not wrong for some people to say, I think Bruno's an issue. It's not wrong for somebody to say, I think Casemiro's an issue or Luke Shaw's an issue. Like, we are miles away. And it's not the manager. It's not the manager. Mourinho was miles away. I know he came second, but he was miles away. Ollie was miles away. I know he came second, but he was miles away. Ten Hag's miles away. I know he came third and got to 2 cup finals, but he's miles away. At some point, we need to wake up and go, we're miles away. Miles away. You know, it's a little bit like, and I don't think people look at the solution as to why we're miles away. Like, I don't know whether you've ever done this, but there's numerous things that do this. The simplest one is, you're on a car journey and the petrol gauge is going down. You're not going to get to your destination. And somebody who knows what they're on about says, we might get there if we shed some weight. So you start throwing out the luggage. Then you start throwing out the relatives. But bottom line is, you're trying to get to your destination, so you're removing the issues that stop you getting there. You might be somebody that when they're eating their food, calorie counts. You know, you got a burger, chips, fries and chips and, you know, whatever. And you got to get your calorie count down. Well, you've got to remove something from the plate. United are miles away. You know, it's the most simplistic analogy. We are miles away. We have been miles away for years. We are miles away from where we need to be, even when we came second. And I can't stand people who say coming second was good. It was crap. We were over 20 points behind both times. We were miles away. Loser with a capital L. Why are we miles away? Because we're not good enough. Why are we miles away? Because the structure's not right. But ultimately, structure, stadia, fitness department, what's most important? Why are we miles behind Liverpool, Arsenal and Man City? It's the players. It's the players, because it's every week that you get 3 points. And the structure in the stadium don't play. The players play. The structure can change the players. The players are what win you points. That's what happens. Not having, you know, a roof that doesn't leak. Not having great training facilities. It's the players on the pitch that win you the points. And the structure dictates the players on the pitch. And that structure needs to look at that team and go, why are we miles away? And when looking at why we're miles away, you've got to go through your team. It's so logical. You've got to go through your team. So when you go through that team at Man United, where do you see the improvement? Because I see people saying we need 2 or 3 players. Oh, 2 or 3 players are going to make us win the league, are they? 2 or 3 players are going to close the gap on Man City. 2 or 3 players are going to close the gap on Liverpool. And I just wish we could do this. It's all about the structure. It's all about the stadia. It's all about the players. It's all about the players. With Mourinho, with Ollie, with Van Gaal, with Ten Hag, with Rangnick. It's about the players. And I don't mean the individual players, because it's not their fault if they're not good enough or, you know, whatever. But who gets 3 points every week for Man City? The players. The manager picks the team. The structure provides those players for the funds, but it's the 11 players that go out on the pitch every week that win the points, right? And we're miles behind them every year because we don't get enough points. Who wins the points? The players. So what you've got to do is, if you're Ineos, you've got to look at that team and go through it and go, Onana compared to Edison, Alisson and Raya. Might not be a problem, might be a problem, okay? And you go through each player and you go, well, they're not in that team. They're not getting in that team. And Daziz Gaming says Pep's system. You're wrong, mate. You're wrong. Because does Pep Guardiola play like he does with our squad? No, he doesn't. He can't do it. You can't play a high line with the defence that we've got at the moment. You can't play possession through the lines, passing phase football with the players that we've got. Hence the solution I'm talking about. Ineos have got to go through that team and go, I wonder if a Pep would want him. I wonder if Klopp would want him. I wonder whether Arteta would want him. And that's how we build a team. And it is not right to be saying 3 or 4 players are not available in this, are not for sale in the summer, especially when those 3 or 4 players aren't good enough to close us on Liverpool, Man City and Arsenal. And that's what needs to happen. And it amazes me that we might be making the same mistakes again, where we don't have a clear out, where we say certain players aren't for sale, because they're the mistakes we've been making in the past. And the biggest one was Jose Mourinho wanted to sell Antony Martial, and the club said no, they overruled him. And Martial's about to walk away for nothing, and has really offered nothing for 2 years. Partly because of injury, of course. Mark, I've used this. Nobody should bow to these suppressing opinions because they can't distinguish between criticism and hate. They're very different things. Or anyway, United win on Sunday. Come on, United, says Martin Saunders. We have Roy Evans, Spice Boys, Liverpool mentality, says Pete. Bruno being captain is an issue because Ten Hag won't drop him because of the media buzz. What will come from dropping him and we shoehorn him in position, says Niki. I mean, you make a good point, but what I would say is, who would be captain instead of Bruno and who would play instead of Bruno? Because if you think Christian Eriksen's is the guy, you want to hear what they're saying in Denmark about him being called up. I mean, so yeah, look, hopefully Mason Mount can come back and that conversation can take place. But at the moment, I don't really understand the whole drop Bruno, take the captaincy off Bruno, because I just don't see an alternative. But what I will say, Niki, is that no player should be being told you're not for sale. No player should be being told you're here next season. No player should... Look, if I can be completely blunt, we're Manchester United, we're shit, we've been shit for 10 years, we should be where Real Madrid are in Spain, we should be where PSG are in France, and we're nowhere near it. If I run that football club, I'm walking in and I'm not shaking hands and smiling and going, well, let's all work together. I'm saying, we will work together, but I'm telling you now, where this club is shit. And I'm going to find out why, and changes are going to happen. The players already have very little left to play for. If they are made to believe they're not in danger of being sold, then Ineos only have themselves to blame when the inconsistency continues, says James. And Arnab says, on clear-outs, is Phil Jones still a United player? No, he's gone a long time ago. De Gea, United fan, says, players lose your games, not tactics. There's so much crap talked about tactics by people who barely know how to win at dominoes. Brian Clough, says De Gea. I tell you what, I saw, just talking about United as well. I thought we played really well for an hour against Wolves, and then we had to take people off, and then people got injured again. But I saw one of the goals that we scored against Villa on Boxing Day. Oh, yeah, absolutely brilliant. And people say that Ten Hag doesn't have a plan, and people said that Mourinho didn't have a plan. They did have a plan. They were just never really given the players to do it. I mean, you know what? I've got to say, people like Scott McTominay, I mean, it's impossible for them to succeed when you think about all the different types of managers they played under. Long ball, counter-attacking, low press, high press, passing. We've had the lot, and obviously he's not good enough to play any of them. But what I'm saying is, he is an indication of the problem at Man United. McTominay's been here for Mourinho, Rangnick, Ollie, and Ten Hag, and they all played a different brand of football, and yet he still gets picked. There's a problem there. We haven't cleared out the players and brought the right players in. We keep using the same players every 3 years in a different system. And what we actually need to do is have a proper clear out. A big weakness in keeping Rashford is also that he can't be dropped without it being a big case. So disruptive having someone like that in a team, says Helg. Well, look, you know what? I missed it, but I'm going to come back to it. Somebody asked a direct question, and it's about time we started answering them. If you were manager, would you sell Rashford, Mark? And I think this is a question I could easily ignore, because I'm not the manager. Ten Hag's the manager. I also know he's not for sale, and United don't want to sell him. So I can sit and hide behind that and say, he's not for sale. Whatever we think doesn't matter, because he's not for sale. But when I read a question where somebody says, if you were the manager, would you sell him? Then I've got nowhere to go other than to answer that. And I could have easily ignored it. But we don't do that on here, because that's what we do. It's what we've done for 10 years. We answer the big questions. Some people skirt around it. Maybe I've been skirting around it the last few weeks, but I'm not going to skirt around it. If I was the manager of Manchester United, would I sell Marcus Rashford? Brilliant question. And every one of you can answer it yourselves. And you know what? Really like the player. Have done for years. Loved it when he came through. Him, Martial and Greenwood, I was so excited about. I was like, oh my God, what could this be? And they had that great season. But things change, and it's not personal. And I look at it from a footballing point of view. I could look at it and go, Marcus Rashford and the people he's got around him are very brand sensitive, and they won't like it if I say sell him or you say sell him. But we're talking hypothetically here. I know he's not for sale. I know he's going to be here next year. I hope he scores at the weekend, and I hope he scores 40 goals next year. That doesn't bother me. I'm not saying I hate the player. I'm not saying I dislike the player. I'm not saying get out of my club. I'm hypothetically answering a question. If I was the manager, would I sell Marcus Rashford? And the answer is, depends what the offer is on the table. I'm not selling him for 50 million. I'm not desperate to sell him. 75 million, let's sit down and have a chat. And if I sit down and have a chat with the player and he says, I'm interested, I would probably sell him. And the reason I would sell, you see, there's a way of answering questions without it being get out of my club, you fraud. Like, I actually, if the right offer came in, if someone offered me £100 million, I'd seriously consider it. But £75 million, I'd sit down with the player and I'd say, because I don't know, I'm the manager, but I don't know what the problem is. I'd ask him, why the year before, why in the last year of Ollie and why this year? In the last 3 years, you've had one good year. You've sandwiched it. You had an amazing year. You won Player of the Year. This year, you've been terrible. The year before that, you were terrible. Why? Why is that? Honest, hands on table. Why? Because he could be saying to me, I desperately don't want to go. Please don't sell me. And I'd say, right, okay, this is your chance. Tell me why two of the last 3 seasons, you've been really bad. And then one of them, you were amazing. Tell me. If he says to me, I'm inconsistent, I'm probably selling him. If he says to me, I've had issues, these are the issues, and I can solve them, I'm probably keeping him. But I don't know why he's had 2 bad years in 3. And I don't know why he had an amazing season in between. But as a manager, I can't keep a player that I can't rely on. He's inconsistent. So that's a big, big concern for me if I'm a manager, honestly speaking. The second thing that's a big concern about me is I just don't think he's creative enough. As on a purely footballing level, he's not creative. I would not want to play that style of football where my winger gets the ball and isn't creative. He can score a brilliant goal. His shot is amazing, as we saw in the game against Man City. He's got a bloody good shot on him, but the attacks break down with him a lot. That's not how I want to play football. And I'd say to him, look, I don't mind you having a shot when you're in a good position to have a shot, but I don't want your first thought to be a shot. So honest answer, anything around 75 million, I'm having an honest chat about it, because the consistency and the creativity concern me. Forget what goes on off the pitch. You solve that in the office. But that's what I would say. Mark, how will I back him if he builds around Rashford, says Thiago. Look, if Ten Hag builds around Rashford and wins the title, happy days. If Ten Hag builds around Rashford and loses his job, it's on him. We don't need to be toxic about it. And you know what? I feel like Man United's become a bit of a soap opera as well. I really do. Most of the conversations we've had over the last 10 years have been about football. And most of the conversations we've had has been about trying to get back where we need to be. And too many people take it too personally. I just don't get it. When people come running out saying, you can't say this about Bruno, you can't say that about whoever. Well, we can, and we have. And we're saying it from a point that we're not good enough because, hello, look at the league table over the last 10 years. We're nowhere near where we need to be. I don't know when we became this sort of woke fan base where you can't criticise people. I don't know. Like, I've told this story so many times. I hope I'm not getting a spot. I've told this story so many times where I used to go to Old Trafford quite a lot in the early noughties because I had a bit of money. I was of that age where I could do it. Not loads. I wasn't there every week, but 3 or 4 times a season I'd get up there. And when I was there, anybody who was there between 2000 and 2005 will tell you this. Giggs used to get loads of shit in the ground. Loads of shit. Legend. Absolute legend. But he used to get loads of shit because Ryan Giggs was quite frustrating at times. He'd get his head down and run into a player 3 or 4 times. And on the 5th time, he'd put a worldie in. That used to happen. Social media didn't exist. You know, the amount of games I went to, and I couldn't, but as a kid, I couldn't believe the language. I remember going to Old Trafford the very first time in 1989. Oh my God. I loved it. I bloody loved it. But it was just unbelievable. Unbelievable. The language, the aggression, absolutely unbelievable. And we seem to have lost the ability to actually criticise constructively the issues at Man United. We're shit. By the standards of where we should be, we are shit. And that's not exclusive to this season. It's been exclusively for 10 years. We are shit. We are nowhere near where we need to be. And I wish we'd wake up to this and stop going, you can't say that. Oh, look at you, you're toxic. Negative. Negative. We're nowhere near where we need to be. Some people take it too far, I agree. You know, the bold fraud stuff and, you know, the name calling and stuff like that. It's too far. But the actual criticism is spot on. We're nowhere near where we need to be. And there's no problem with calling that out. And if any player is sensitive enough to be bothered by being called out for not being good enough, there's a really easy answer. One, no one's making it personal. And two, you can change it. Instead of moaning about what people are saying about you, just put your shirt on and go and deliver. Problem solved. Guarantee you now, any player that's not played well last week, that plays well on Sunday against Liverpool and knocks them out, 8 or 9 out of 10. That's what we want. It's so bloody simple. So simple. But of course, the modern footballer surrounds themselves with people that really are just focused on making them feel great. If Rashford was from London... sorry, we'll go back to that one. We're judging Amrabat as left-back when he's not, says Keel. I'd just like Rashford to make a tackle, says Curtis. Well, what I've enjoyed about this show tonight is it's not even about Rashford, really. I mean, Friday night shows are always good. But it's not even about Rashford. If you listen back to what we've been talking about, we're not talking about Rashford, really. We're talking about Man United. We're talking about why we are where we are. No player that's been playing shit should be safe this summer. We're nowhere near where we need to be. And we need to look at why that is. And if I'm Ineos and I'm saying, for example, if I'm Ineos and I'm saying Bruno's not for sale, Rashford's not for sale, McTominay's not for sale, Varane's not for sale, Luke Shaw's not for sale, that's 5 first-teamers. Do you really think we're only 6 away? And when you've got Martinez, Anana, Garnacho, Rasmus, Mainu. So those 5 aren't for sale. I know we've got 5. So we're only 1 player away from Man City. You see what I mean? It doesn't work. If you're saying that Rashford, Bruno, McTominay, Varane and Luke Shaw aren't for sale this summer and they're all first teamers, and we already know Martinez, Anana, Garnacho, Mainu, Højlund are good enough, that's 10 players. So we only need 1 player to catch Man City. Bollocks. And this is what I mean. People don't realise it. We've got to have these harsh conversations. It's all right saying these players aren't for sale. But then when I add the players that I know are good enough, well, we've basically got a first team that's not good enough. Got to make some big decisions this summer. We spoke about it last year. Sacrificial lamb. I don't think it's a sacrificial lamb this summer. It's harsh decisions. You're not right for where we need to go. I just like, Mark, how will I back him if he builds around? I've done that one. If Rashford was from London, Birmingham, Bristol, he'd have been sold to PSG when they're interested. The local lad tag keeps him here, says Lee. Krista's gifted a membership. You mentioned in the morning show that Nagelsmann has a lot of red flags. Can you name them? Personally, I think he'd be perfect replacement if we get rid of Ten Hag, says Ben Vacation. Mount needs to step up wherever he comes in, says Sam. Amrabat's better than Bruno, says Kyle. And been saying this since Jose days. That's why every manager don't finish above 6th. Pep, Klopp, etc. would still be 6th here, says Ray. Exactly. Catching up needs time. Building a squad around the vision of one manager. Clear out is needed, says Florian. Making players untouchable is the wrong way. I agree. Look, I've got to be honest. I spoke to you about this 2 weeks ago. I told you 3 or 4 players that aren't for sale. And I can only give you the news. But I completely agree with Florian. What's different if we're already saying in an underperforming season certain players are going to be here? What message does that send out? It's the wrong message. You know, I don't want to make it about Rashford because it could be about any number of players, but it's wrong. It's wrong to say certain players are not for sale because we're shit. And we're meant to be trying to close a gap. And I'll tell you what, a free lesson for Ineos. They've pumped a lot of money in for 25%. They've made a lot of big statements. If you want to achieve your goal, you better start making some big decisions around players. Players United wanted to buy. All managers say their players weren't for sale. They create supply and demand, says Barry. If De Bruyne was underperforming, Pep would get rid of him. Exactly, John. Mark, I've used this. Okay, I've done that one from Martin as well. There was a really good point here I wanted to... Oh, vacation, talking about Nagelsmann and red flags. I don't want to miss that because people will say I'm ducking it. My red flags for Nagelsmann. Okay, numero 1, he's managing Germany until early, mid-July. Man United need a manager in from May. Now, really. The sooner the better. Oh, we've got one called Erik ten Hag. And what I mean by that is, if we're going to do the clear out, we need to do it now. Like, players need to know they're leaving now. And they will. Some of them do know they're going. Some of them know they're up for sale. So, you bring Nagelsmann in, doesn't come in till July. How the hell are we selling players? How the hell are we buying players? So, that's a big red flag. Second red flag is Bayern Munich. In fairness to Nagelsmann, there's a lot of rumours that that wasn't his fault, but things didn't go well in a big club. That's a big red flag as well. Third red flag for Nagelsmann is, why is he any different to Ten Hag? Nagelsmann was really good at Leipzig. Ten Hag was really good at Ajax. Why would I spend 10, 15 million sacking Ten Hag to bring Nagelsmann in, who might fail for the same reasons? So there's 3 red flags straight away. Mojo is in the chat. Is given 5 memberships. I need to gift some memberships as well. Join the membership gifting club. Let me, I will sort that out. I need to go to a different page to do it. Wan says, academy bias. This is like Roy Keane reacting negatively to Ollie praising Fred in the overlap while ignoring McTominay in the same sentence, says Wan. Min says, what kind of example are we setting if we say any player is safe when they're playing like crap, says Min. And maybe they aren't because there are others to sell, says Azalin. Yeah, I think this is a great point, actually. And I'm not going to scoot around that. All of you that want to sell Rashford or Bruno or Luke Shaw or anybody else, what you do also need to consider is that you can't do everything in one summer. You just can't. It's a great point. It's a really good point. Think about it. Sancho, Greenwood, Wan-Bissaka, maybe Maguire, Varane, Casemiro, Eriksen, Van der Beek, Williams. You know, there's a lot of players that have got to go. And then you're going to add in Rashford and whoever like that. So I agree with that. There is a lot to do. There is a lot to do. And we're not going to get it all done. And also, like, how do you... We're not going to sell Rashford, okay? We're not going to do it. But season ends 20th of May. Straight into the Euros. He's going to be in the Euros. Comes back. I think England win the Euros mid-July. Couple of weeks holiday. Probably misses the tour straight into a new season. At what point do you sell him? It'd be a big deal to do. You know? So there is that as well. Look, I personally do think, and this might upset some, but I actually do really agree with this. If we get the summer clear out right, and if we keep people like Rashford and Bruno, it would not surprise me if next season we got the Rashford of last season and the Bruno of the season before, in the sense that they could just play really well again. Like they have the capability of doing it. Whether they can consistently, look, Saka's doing it every year, Salah does it every year, De Bruyne does it every year. Consistency is the problem. I will argue with anybody around someone like Rashford because he is a good player. I'll argue with anyone. He is a good player. When he's on it, he's on it. But I'll also concede he's not consistent. And we're Manchester United. You know, if you're a player that's good but you're not consistent, you shouldn't be at Man City. You shouldn't be at Man United. You shouldn't be at Liverpool. You shouldn't be at Arsenal. You've got to be consistent. And this is another lesson. You know, we talk about what Sir Alex used to do. He'd get rid of world-class players because of an issue off the pitch. We've collected, for some reason, good players who aren't consistent. And one of the fundamentals of success, whether it's our past or the present with the likes of City and Liverpool, is that it's not good enough to be world class, top class. You've got to be consistent with it. And that's the biggest problem we have. Where's Bruno gone this year? Calendar year, I haven't got a bloody clue. There's no doubt that Bruno Fernandes is in the conversation to being one of the best number 10s in the world when he's on it. But where's the consistency gone? There's no doubt, in my opinion, that Marcus Rashford, when he's on it, has got to be in the conversation of being one of the best left wingers in Europe. But where's the consistency gone? And that is something that I don't think we take into account. I hope Ineos take it into account, because Sir David Brailsford bloody well should. If you look at what he talks about, consistency is absolutely fundamental in high level sport. But we don't have consistency. We don't. What people want to dwell on is he's shit or he's good. And everyone argues, I like this player, I think he's shit. You know, I've seen it with Ricky about Bruno, and I've seen it on the forum. I've seen it with Sancho, with Ricky and Faz against everyone else. But you know what? If I was on the forum, and maybe I should be soon, if I was on the forum and I had Ricky and Faz telling me that Sancho's really good and it's not his fault, and I've got Kev and Beth saying it is his fault, I'd sit in the middle and I'd go, well, you think he's good, you don't think he's good enough. The truth is, he ain't consistent enough. And therefore, he's not a Man United fan, Rick. He's not a Man United player, Ricky and Faz. He ain't consistent enough, lads. He's a good player, but he ain't consistent. Ryan Giggs, David Beckham, Paul Scholes, Gary Neville, Cantona, Rooney, Ronaldo, Vidic. Consistency. Every week. Consistency. Because every other week, you've got to go to the Emirates. You've got to go to the Etihad. You've got to go to Anfield. You've got to go to Goodison Park. Every other week, you've got to go away. You better be fucking consistent, otherwise you're going to get swallowed up. And that's where we go wrong. In this whole Player FC universe, oh, I love this player, I love this player, you're a hater. But nobody actually goes, well, it's great that you love them. Are they consistent? I'm not saying they're not a good player. You love that player. Well done. Well done. Are they consistent? Well, but no. I concede they're a really good player. You can have your Player FC club. That's absolutely fine. But are they Mo Salah? Are they Kevin De Bruyne? Are they consistent? And the answer at Man United over the last few years has been, we've had some bloody good players, but they're not consistent. And that is why we're miles behind. We had the wrong people in important positions for some years now. Hope with Ashworth, we're going to look at consistency, mentality and personality as well, says Florian. I think we'll all be happy regardless of the result Saturday, and as long as the players come out and give it a proper go and inspired, says Red Devil Ronnie. And Vacation says, I take your points. I'm sure we'll have communication with Ineos on transfers while in Germany. I think he's part of the new age of managers that connects with the generation of players, i.e. Arteta. Talking about the Gelsman there. Tony Shannon has gifted, is a member for 9 months. Would you celebrate a Conference League trophy, says Sem? Don't put me in the position to find out. Mojo's gifted 20 memberships. Appreciate that. You should have had 10 memberships from me as well. And also 10 memberships from Sherlock. And another 5 from Mojo. So there's a few memberships floating around tonight. Nash says you've nailed it. Well, I really enjoyed the last 10 minutes of the morning show. And I've really enjoyed the show tonight. I feel as if I found myself. I feel like I've been missing for 3 months. I feel like I found myself again. And I feel like I always enjoy. I did a video with Loz off the kickoff on my channel. And I said, you know, it's Friday night, I can say this. I did this video called Creating a Monster, the football YouTube story with Loz, who used to be on the kickoff. And at the start of it, I said to him, before we went live, I said this thing. And he said, oh, you should mention it on the stream. So I did. And I said, I've not been happy for 3 years doing this. And he said, why? And I said, no. When I go live, I love it. I love it. You can't be a 10 out of 10 performance every week, but I do enjoy it. I've never been below a 6. I've never not enjoyed a stream, really. But there's a lot of things off the camera that make me unhappy. I just want to hit live. That's when I'm happy. Okay. But I think tonight and this morning, I've sort of discovered something. For some reason, I think for the last 3 months, I've been holding back a little bit, and you don't need to. You don't need to. Like, I know Rashford's not for sale, and I haven't got a problem with that, really. But everything we've discussed is true. Like, it is true. You know, Mourinho wanted to sell Martial, wasn't allowed to do it. Are the club doing that again? Sir Alex sold world-class players because there was problems off the pitch. We are going to keep players who aren't performing. You know, we need to learn why we're miles off. Consistency is key. And we need to be consistent with our past. We were successful because we were ruthless. And we need to be ruthless again. Players come and go. Managers come and go. Man United remains. We don't need to be a charity. We don't need to be, oh, we've got to keep this player. It killed us for ages. Keeping people like Rojo for 2 years after their sell-by date. It killed us. It really did. Maybe Eric Ten Hag said that to make sure clubs who want Rashford won't get him cheap, says Sky. Daniel Sturridge, welcome to Members Club. Vacation has just gifted 5 memberships. What a legend. Well, you know what? Ten Hag can't be criticised for saying any player's not for sale in March. I would do the same. If I was sat in a press conference ahead of the next few months and somebody said to me, is it true that Harry Maguire's up for sale? And I knew he was up for sale. I would say, no. He's played this many games this season. He's going to go to the Euros with England. He's a massively important player for us. Why would he be up for sale in the summer? Ten Hag has to say that. I think it's probably true, but he has to say that anyway. 100%. Vacation, thank you very much. I've loved the show tonight. I'm reluctant to stop the show, but it is nearly 9 o'clock. Great conversation tonight. This is what it's all about. Feels like there's a different vibe going on, doesn't there? What's... Not that it's been bad for 3 months, but I just feel like, I don't know what it was. I think I became aware of it this week. I don't know. I don't know what it was. I don't know what it was. But I feel like I really enjoy it again. I did enjoy it anyway, but I just felt like, I don't know, something wasn't right. Analyse that. Mark, everyone has been banging on about selling Wan-Bissaka, but how do you bring centre midfielder, left back, striker, right winger, DM in one transfer window? Well, it will be difficult, Sommer. Luke Shaw's not for sale, but by the way, that's why he's on the thumbnail. Whether that's breaking news or slow sports news, he's not for sale this summer. Some people think he should be, he's not. Mark, we need strong-minded players which don't give up and fight 110 minutes. And there are players from Austria like that. So Stephen, you got any names? Give us some names. We've had 54 new members tonight, by the way. Legends for people who've been gifting them out. Nice to see the community doing that. I'm massively looking forward to the Liverpool game, though. I mean, I don't think I'll ever not look forward to a Liverpool game. Although the Anfield game I really didn't look forward to. I mean, that we knew we were going to park the bus. Actually, that's a lie. That is a lie. Do your FPL, Mark, says Del Boy. Yes. Absolutely going to do that now. You're a legend. Thank you. I didn't enjoy the Anfield game before Christmas because it was backs to the wall, wasn't it? But I nearly said bums to the wall, which is, I suppose it is, head to the back of the head to the wall, bum to the wall, back to the wall, heels to the wall, whatever. But this one, we're at home. We have to attack. There was a stupid story about Antony going to Barcelona, by the way. I was going to talk about it, but the show's been so good. We don't need to waste our time on that shit. Apparently, Man United have offered Barcelona Antony. They're not, you know. How would that even work? How would that even work? I don't even know. I'm off to watch a bit of telly, Cameron. Yes, I'm really looking forward to it. I've been re-watching Mid Morning Matters, actually, with Alan Partridge recently. And a hidden gem. Really enjoyed that. I watched this thing on Netflix that the missus got me into. what was it called? One Day or something like that. It's a bit of a, it's not my cup of tea really. It's, but I actually really enjoyed it because every year that it's like all through the 90s. So I quite enjoyed that. It's weird sometimes. You've got to have an open mind. You've got to have an open mind. Anyway, look, I'm back in the morning at 10 o'clock with the news. Sunday is match day, of course, and Man City Newcastle watch along on That's Football tomorrow as well. Can I just point you to as well the podcast? Very important this week because it is all about Man United. The podcast isn't always about Man United because it's a general football podcast. Goldbridge Saves Football. But this week, you can scan that QR code by putting your camera phone up against it and it will take you straight through to it. We had Loz on from Lawrence McKenna, used to be on the Kickoff, Liverpool fan. So we're talking about Man United against Liverpool. Really enjoyed the chat. You can actually watch it as a video now as well. If you want to listen to it, go to Spotify. If you want to watch it, we now put the full podcast up as a video in the Goldbridge Arms on That's Football. So if you want to go and give that a watch, please do. I completely forgot about this. This game feels different. Come on, United, says Mario. Definitely. And Dan John says, evening, Mark. This is what we need. The no give a fuck, Mark. The fire spark is back. Don't hold back. We back you in the community. The way, screw all the haters. They're completely jealous. You know what, Dan? I think you're right. I think you're right. The spark's been missing for 3 months. Since Christmas. It's been missing. You know what I think it is? I just think it's the general Man United. I don't think it's even deliberate. I think it's just United. I don't want to see Ten Hag sacked, and that sort of sends you like, you know, this apathy. Fuck apathy. Get an opinion or get out. Thanks for watching, everyone. Take care. I'll see you tomorrow. And thanks for watching. Legends.